Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our Halloween first thoughts of the new releases from Trivium, Spite, Despised Icon, Avatar, and King 810. So I said 810 because when I was looking into some stuff for this band, apparently that's how it's pronounced.
I would always say King 810.
And that's what I would say too, yeah. But apparently it's King 810.
I wonder if 810 is an area code because they like to sing and rap a lot about Flint, Michigan, which I believe is where they're from. So maybe that's an area code from Flint.
Could be. You see bands do that. They'll do like area code stuff in their songs and lyrics or whatever. Anyway, let's start with that album. That is K7 Rust Belt Nu Metal 2.
Yep.
I don't know. Okay, it's K7 because it's their seventh album. Okay, sure. But Rust Belt Nu Metal, just the original, was released earlier this year in June. I thought it was like all right.
Yeah.
With this band, they're really up and down for me because sometimes it's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm digging it. I'm getting into this. And sometimes it feels like it's trying too hard to be what it is. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like, and I'll get into this a little bit more regarding this album, but you don't have to try too hard to really scream your message into the audience, where you can express that without having to force it and do it musically, and it just overall works better. And I think that's what this album does. You know? And that's kind of sometimes the issue that I've had with this band, is that sometimes it's like that, but not here. So I do like, overall, like, kind of out the gate, I kind of enjoyed that there was just a lot of groove-focused stuff going on in this album. And I like that quite a bit, because the vibe of this band is a lot like, old school, like industrial, some of the groove-focused nu metal. So like we're talking like Korn, we're talking like old school Marilyn Manson, we're talking like those kinds of bands.
Okay.
At least that's the impression I get from this band and their sound. And I mean, the album's called Rust Belt Nu Metal, so.
Yeah, there's also a much heavier emphasis on the rap, I think, the hip-hop side of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen that from the band, like, in general. Like, it's,
of course,
kind of what they do. So, there's not too many songs in particular that specifically jump out to me. But I will say a really cool tonal shift that was happening with this record was the combo of Black Doves into the Lotus Ruin. The Lotus Ruin Bloomed. Sorry. Huh. I thought it was a pretty cool tonal shift to the softer and more melodic stuff from this record. But overall, honestly, I was impressed, because I felt like sometimes the tracks kind of annoy me. And the way I kind of wrote it was like, it either has a hard edge and hits hard, or it feels like it tries too hard. But this album didn't feel like that. And I felt that this was better than the original. I liked it a lot more than the original that came out in June. So I was pleasantly surprised by this record.
That's weird. I had a bit of the opposite feeling, because when the first album came out back in June, I listened to it and I was like, it's fine. But then I listened to it, a few other times since then, and each time I kind of liked it better and better. Okay. It's almost like once I knew what I was getting into, I knew how to appreciate it more. Mm-hmm. This one didn't really strike the chord with me. I liked the first album better. This band does a lot of what I would describe as slam poetry, but to music. And it's got that like very aggressive, very emotionally charged kind of poetic vibe to it. Okay. But I just tend to like a little bit more melody in my music. Mm-hmm. And they do some of that kind of stuff. Like a good example is the track number 3, I Don't Mind. That's got a little less of the slam poetry and more of the melodic stuff. I wish they made more of their music like that. Track number 4, Black Doves, which you mentioned, and you also mentioned Marilyn Manson earlier. I thought this was like giving Mechanical Animals era Marilyn Manson, but not necessarily in a good way. Like, I feel like it kind of had that sound, but it wasn't executed in a way that made me go, yes, this is good. Mm-hmm. So I think it's fine. I have a feeling if I listen to it again later down the line, I'll appreciate it a little more, similar to how I felt about Rust Belt Nu Metal, like the first one. Yeah. Because I listened to that again recently, and I was like, wow, this is better than I remember it. So maybe I'll have the same feeling. But yeah, this one didn't quite hit the mark with me, especially not as much as the other album. This feels to me like leftover tracks from the first album, which essentially, I guess, is what it is in a sense.
Yeah,
So-
sometimes that when bands do like sequel albums, they run the risk of sounding like a B-side album.
Exactly.
Not always, doesn't always happen, but sometimes that does happen.
All right, what's next?
So next, let's talk about New World Killer in all caps by Spite.
Okay.
This is the band Darius Tirani's in, and when I realized that, I'm like, oh, that's where he's from, right? He featured on the Reaper Servant from Enterprise Earth's album last year, Death and Anthology.
Oh, okay.
Which is a banger song. That was my album of the year last year as well. So, he sounds great on this record. I'll say that. This band, the name's familiar, but I wasn't sure if I had checked them out before. I don't know if we did a reaction or anything.
I think we checked out Spite on the channel.
Maybe. I don't think we did any albums because I looked at the albums and nothing was familiar. But so okay, cool. It's fresh, right, for me. So I'm listening to this and I'm like, damn, this. I was thinking like, just looking at the track list, I'm like, okay, well, this has got to be deathcore because I see a Will Ramos feature. So like that kind of told me, okay, this is probably in the realm of deathcore, and it is. But which I guess if I'll comment on that feature, what makes it work is that he does the kind of gremlin sounds.
Yep.
But it's just like in that section, and not much of that kind of thing has happened throughout the rest of the album, so it works.
Right.
That's kind of like the problem with doing that in deathcore a lot, because when people do that too much, it gets stale and annoying.
Yeah, it loses
But when
its
it's
power.
just like, oh, there's that one song that has it, it makes it special, and it has all its power because of that.
Yes.
So I like that for that quite a bit. I think it's cool that the first track had it's basically opened with a slow beater, which I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But what I especially liked about this album as I listened is that I think this record is a perfect example of like what you can show someone when you tell them, hey, here is how deathcore has a big derivative from nu metal.
Yeah.
I think there's so many ideas and comparisons in my head that I'm making to like, Slipknot was one of the biggest ones in my mind, because you'd look at, a song like The Disaster, there's a sick drum break in that song that reminds me a lot of the, like, not like in terms of sounding just like it verbatim, but like the vibe reminds me so much of the drum break in People Equal Shit.
Yeah.
So like stuff like that, I'm thinking, and then I'm listening, fantastic drumming performance on this album, by the way. This guy killed it. This guy throws in cool little things here and there, has a good variety of stuff going on. I would probably bet money that Joey is probably one of this guy's biggest influences.
Yeah.
Because so many of these choices, I'm like, these are really like Joey decisions here.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, for sure. I hear that too.
So I definitely think like they kind of reminded me of like Carnifex without the horror theme. You know what I mean? Because Carnifex, I think that's another band that's a really, really good example of a deathcore album showing how the influence was.
Yeah.
Or a deathcore band to give a good example of what the influence is from nu metal. But basically, so take that and take out all the horror and creepy stuff, and then you get this band, which is a good thing. I mean, I like Carnifex. Carnifex is awesome. So there's multiple songs where I'm like, wow, this is a cool idea here. This is a cool thing there. There's a syncopated groove that happens at like the 1 minute mark of Lights Out, which reminded me a lot of Rational Gaze by Meshuggah.
Okay.
But it wasn't too close, so I thought that was cool. I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of like Rational Gaze. Yeah, I like that. So I was just, multiple songs that I thought were pretty cool. But yeah, the drumming was fantastic. Like, there's a lot of the small stuff thrown in there, and it's like, I'm listening to this, I'm like, man, this sounds like a lot of the cool like influences that I know. Or like some of this stuff is like, yeah, I'd probably do something like that. You know what I mean? Like I really like the creativity of this drummer and the way he throws in stuff here and there. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, I had fun with the album. I agree with a lot of the things you said. The drums were really good. You definitely hear, the sprinkles of nu metal influence in there, which is something we've always said. We think, deathcore is a sort of an influential derivative of nu metal in many ways. So you can definitely hear that in here. When I first saw this album art, I immediately knew who did it. It's a guy called Necro Devourer, and I've been following this guy on Instagram and stuff for years. And I saw it and I went, holy crap, that's Necro Devourer. So I went to his page and sure enough, it was his. And I went, it's about time this guy is on an album. And I found out he actually did a Vulvodynia. I think it was a single, maybe not an album as well.
Okay.
But I was like, this guy's got such amazing art. I've been looking at it for such a long time. I just love the style. And I just want to give a shout out there because this guy's artwork is amazing, and I thought super, super cool. So
it's cool that like you can just basically an artist well enough that you could tell it's their style.
I mean, not all the time, but I've been following this guy for a while.
But exactly though.
So I saw it and I was like, oh, I know who that is.
You know it well enough that you can tell just from seeing it. Oh, I know who did this.
Exactly. And his art, like,
it's a sick artwork too.
It's a sick artwork, and he's got a very distinguishable style of art, I find. So right away, just kudos to that amazing piece. So yeah, I enjoyed the album. I paired a lot of things TV Fish said. I'll say that my top track was track number 8, Servants of Chaos, which is the one that features Will Ramos. And, it's a great track. It's my favorite track so far. And it's not even because Will's on it. He does help. He adds that extra, flair to it. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's still a really good song. So I'm not going to harp on it anymore because you kind of said a lot of what I would have said anyway. It was a good album. My only gripe with it maybe is that there wasn't much nuance that I found to the point where it separated it from other deathcore albums in any special sort of way. But as a deathcore album in and of itself, it is solid.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, let's continue. Don't Go in the Forest is the name of the new Avatar album that dropped today. I would say they're probably like one of the most popular bands that we cover. But
they're up there, yeah.
And I also believe that they are one of the best bands that we've reviewed to not be on the Toe Tag list. And we've reviewed them 3 times.
Wow.
The first time was Avatar Country. We didn't really like that album very much, which, like a year later, I listened to it again. I think it's actually great.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's actually like quite good. And then Hunter Gatherer came out in 2020.
That was close.
Very close. I barely didn't give it a toe tag, but you did.
Yeah.
And then last year,
Dance
Devil Dance, which was the other way around. Yeah. I gave it a toe tag and you barely didn't. So it's like, okay, what's going on?
Whoops. So what did you think about this on your first listen?
Well, I have, kind of a high standard for this band because of how awesome they are.
I agree. Me too. Yeah.
Did they meet that standard? Not exactly, but there are still some bangers on this record. We did check out 3 singles. And I'm gonna guess that I can probably speak for the both of us when I say out of those 3 singles, Captain Goat is still the best one.
Yes.
That is a phenomenal song.
Love Captain Goat.
Instant playlist. Yep. Like, it's a cool example of like, they can still make great stuff and they can be so creative because they hadn't done anything that really sounded like that.
Yeah.
I remember In the Airwaves is a song that I wasn't 100% on because I thought the chorus didn't really fit.
Yeah.
But listening to it today, now that the album is out, it didn't really bother me anymore. And that was the only thing holding it back from being a banger.
So speaking of just because we're talking about it right now, the chorus of In the Airwaves, I feel like this song almost has 2 personalities. It almost feels to me, and this probably isn't the case, but it almost feels to me like Johannes is singing in a major key during the chorus, and then everything else is minor in the song. It's not the case, but it kind of has that vibe. There's such a brightness to the chorus, and everything else sounds dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's like a weird dual personality going on. I know they intended for that. I just don't know if the execution was how they intended. Mm-hmm. I remember when we reacted, I was digging this song a lot.
Yeah, you were into it.
I was really into it. But listening to it now on the album, it's not hitting me the same way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, otherwise, it was back and forth. There were some songs that kind of just came away, and there were some that were still bangers. Abduction Song, that's another banger. I think it's really cool, in my opinion, when songs start rhythmically ambiguous, and then you find where one is later.
Yeah.
So like there's a few songs that start with the riff either partway through or the riff just doesn't give you the answer until something happens later where everyone's kind of together or something, and then you can find that.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool, and this song does that as well. So it's kind of fun to like lab it out and figure out, okay, where are they starting?
Yeah.
Or how does this riff start? But, there were a song like Howling at the Waves. I think it's a nice ballad and it does its job, but like it's not a song that really like jumps out at me, And this album had a bit of that, songs where it's like, yeah, this is good and all, but like doesn't blow me away like I know this band can.
Yeah.
So on a first impression, the album's good, but it didn't meet the expectation. But the thing is, if you set a high bar and they don't meet that bar, even if it's close, you'll feel like you're disappointed. So I feel
That's true, yeah.
I need more time with the album to really, really let it sink in and get my proper opinion. Now that it's out, I have my first impression of it, and then I can actually sink my teeth into this and get a more personally well-informed opinion, so that, you know, the bar that was set is no longer there because it's come out now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like I went into this album very enthusiastic because of, again, previous albums, because we were hyped on the singles. Captain Goat, great song. I really love just the vibe of that song. And so I went in with, you know, high hopes. And I was kind of just, I don't want to say disappointed, but the standard wasn't met for me. There's definitely some highlights here. There's some good points on this album. And, you know, you mentioned Abduction Song. That's also one that caught my attention, but I wrote in my notes, I really don't even know why I'm liking this song, but I'm digging it. Like, sometimes it's just like that. You don't even know why you're resonating, but it's just hitting the right notes for you, right? You also mentioned Howling at the Waves, which I have notes for. I thought this was a really cool song. I like that it was kind of simple but nice. I felt like it would have been a cool closer. And I listened to this album a couple times, and that song actually grew on me. As I listened to it again, I was like, you know what, this is actually a really nice song. And Avatar can do that. They can write really nice songs.
Yeah.
And this is one of those examples. Track number 9, Take This Heart and Burn It. I felt like this one was interesting. It had some weird Latin beat or something that came at one part. I was like, oh, that's a weird twist. And then it kind of just goes back. And they do little things like that, which I really do appreciate. But for some reason, it wasn't quite hitting the mark for me. And one of the reasons might be because of the intro track, to be honest. Tonight We Must Be Warriors, another song, I believe we reacted to it. It was a single.
Yep. The video was fucking weird.
Yeah. But this one, I just don't feel like it's a good opening song. Like, I really don't. I feel like this is a mid-album song, and it's like the fact that it's the opener kind of threw me off a little bit. I do dig the solo section. I like some of the riffs. It has a kind of a catchy infectiousness to it. But as an opener, it was kind of rubbing me the wrong way, which is not a fair criticism, and I admit that. But just out of the gate, basically, my opinion was like, oh.
I mean, that can happen. If an opener doesn't vibe with you, then it kind of gives you a weird impression for the rest of the record. You know what I mean? That's the opening track. I think it's an effective opening track. Do I love it? Not really, but, like, it works as an opener, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, it's an opener, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, my opinion of the album was a lot less enthusiastic than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting to listen to this, love it, and can't wait till I hear it again.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting going in, and that's not how how it ended up being. So it is what it is. I still think it's fine. I'm still definitely gonna listen to it more when I have a chance. But my first impression of it wasn't the greatest.
So, Shadow Work by Despised Icon.
Okay.
This album, I think we were both super duper looking forward to, not only because the band is awesome.
Yep.
They're on the 2 toe tag list with their last album, Purgatory from 2019.
Yep.
We checked out all 3 singles. They went 3 for 3. I still think they're 3 for 3 on those singles. All 3 of those songs are fantastic.
Yep.
It's the kind of album that wastes no time. Every single song is just like, bam, here we go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, all right. But yeah, Over My Dead Body, still love that song. Love Matt Honeycutt in general. So to see him get a feature, always love hearing that. Love his voice. On top of that, the screams. So there's 2 vocalists in this band. I don't really know who's who or who does what.
Me neither.
But whoever does the higher stuff, this guy, like, there's a scream at like the 1 minute mark in Death of an Artist, which is another one of the ones we reacted to.
Yep.
That, I say this in the best way, does not sound like a musical scream. And here's what I mean by that. Instead of sounding like, yeah, this is like a metal growl, right? It sounds like a genuine, like, manic or painful scream, like an agonizing scream. It does not sound like this guy singing. It sounds like he's dying. And I love that. And that's all over this album. So when I'm hearing it in this song, I'm like, Jesus, dude. Like, oh my God.
I know, it's killer, yeah.
It's ridiculous. So I think there's a lot of just really... I was at a point where a good chunk of this album where I'm just like, oh my God, this one's crazy and this one's crazy. Like the bridge in Corpse Pose has this awesome syncopated kick on top of a snare roll, which is kind of like Click Hate by Man Must Die. Like that song.
Oh yeah.
Just sick. Also, amazing breakdown. Love that too. I will say Reaper, like they had awesome stuff with the vocals. Reaper has some of the goofy sounding pig squeals to me.
Goofy sounding pig squeals? There's no such thing.
Like, there's a way that people squeal that kind of sounds a little doofy to me, and I think that song is a good example of it, where it's just like, okay, guys, like, you could leave Slam Worldwide at any point.
Okay.
Which is weird because that is also featuring both Scotty and Lewis and Tom Barber as well.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny, but yeah. And is there anything else? No, not really. So, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It was crazy. Like, there are songs where I'm just like, Jesus Christ! Ah! And, I think they spent their time... They spend their time between albums, you know what I mean? The last one was 2019. That was a while ago. So, it's good to see that, that time went to good use.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a gnarly album. I think maybe near the end I felt a little bit of fatigue, but overall, it was great.
Yeah, I think a good way to put that is that the album feels well crafted.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like it was thrown together. It doesn't feel like it was whipped together or just kind of recorded in haste. It feels like it was, some thought and care was put into it.
Yeah.
And that's something that we appreciate when bands do that. They take their time and they make art, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this album was killer. Had a lot of fun listening to it. There's a lot of little things going on there. There's, some guitar work that I was really digging, some tremolo riffing on the title track. I was digging that. Corpse Pose is a cool song. It has these descending trills, which kind of give the song a sense of spiraling downward, which you hear from time to time in music, and I really love when that's executed well. Track number 5, The Apparition. This is just kind of, to me, this felt more like this classic Despised icon. You got the gang vocals, the stank face breakdowns, those grooves. Just really hard-hitting punchiness.
That was the third single we reacted to.
It was, yeah, and it hits hard. It just as hard listening to it on the album as well.
Pretty sure that's the one when he was screaming in the car.
Yeah, it was, and there was that figure that was just kind of dressed in black that was standing there doing nothing.
Yeah,
and I questioned it at the end. Track number 7, In Memoriam. Sorry, these masks are hard to see out of. In Memoriam, featuring Mystic. So, I don't know if you know who Mystic is. I discovered Mystic on TikTok a few years ago, but she's she's
like an Australian keyboardist and producer.
Yeah, but she collaborates with a lot of bands.
Yeah, I looked into it, which is pretty cool that they collaborated with her for this too.
Yeah. So, but my point is I've known who she was for a long time. So when I see her name on a track, I almost expect to hear lots of synth, and I didn't. There was not a lot of synth presence on this song, and I'm like...
It was there, but minimal.
It was there, but minimal, and it's I almost appreciate that a lot because I think that would have drastically changed the sound of the band too much.
Yeah.
If they went full synth, the way she does it. If you listen to some of her stuff, she synths things out like crazy.
Yeah.
But it sounds really good, especially when she mixes it with deathcore and things like that. It sounds amazing. But I'm really glad they went the subtle approach on this. I thought that was such a tasteful idea to have her there, to have her put her flair on there, but not overdo it. Very, very well done. One of the highlight tracks for me was track number 9, Obsessive Compulsive Disaster.
Love that name.
So rad. Yeah, what a great name. This one has a bit more of that hardcore punk type of stuff to it, especially in the second half of the song. It goes into a bit of a groove there. And then right after that, you have Contre Coeur, which is against one's will or reluctantly in English. This one, again, heavy on the hardcore punk side of things, which, I mean, any genre you have with core in the end of it is going to have that hardcore punk, derivative. So I thought that those two songs there towards the end of the album having that much punch to them was a nice way to kind of not let the album get stale near the end and give it a nice kick, to kind of keep it fresh near the end. So that was cool. Overall, yeah, my thoughts are great. I thought this was a great album. I'm definitely looking forward to listening to it more and unpacking more of it. But yeah, good stuff from Despised Icon, and the features were good. Yeah, I liked it all.
So to end this off, let's talk about the EP they released today from Trivium, Struck Dead, which is the final release from this band with Alex Bent as their drummer.
Well, just to be clear, Alex Bent was only on Bury Me With My Screams. Alex...
Oh, he wasn't on the other two?
No, Alex Rudinger is on the other two tracks.
Oh, I didn't know that. What?
Yeah.
Really?
Really. Yep.
Wow, okay, that I did not know.
Yep. I found that out today, and that was an interesting fact that I went, holy shit, that's pretty cool.
I'm curious, if Alex, Rudinger did not join the band, would they have had Grayson perform those?
I don't know. I don't know exactly the timeline of how everything worked out. Like when this was recorded, when Alex left, when Grayson joined, when Rudinger came. Like it's a kind of a mixed up timeline. But from what I read, yeah, Bent is on Bury Me With Your Screams. He's in the video for that song. But the other 2 tracks were recorded by Rudinger.
That must have been fast though, because Grayson knew like basically a week before Alex left, right? And then he joined. You know, he knew basically a week before, had a small amount of time to learn this stuff and rehearse and whatever, played the gig, you know, Aftershock, and then I guess sometime between Aftershock and the release of the EP is probably when they talked to Rudinger, got him to join the band, and then...
You never know. They could have been doing stuff behind the scenes too that just didn't make public, or maybe the timeline... public is not what we know. There's a lot of things that could have happened.
Yeah, like to be fair, like, you know, Grayson knew like 1 week before, right? So,
yeah,
you know, we don't know for sure. But
another interesting fact I read though is that Trivium has been eyeing Alex Rudinger for almost a decade.
I heard about that.
And they were trying to get together with him about 9 or 10 years ago, but their schedules weren't lining up. It just wasn't in the cards back then.
I think it was a mix of that. I think I read about it as well that Rudinger like just started a band with some friends.
Yeah.
So it's like he didn't want to leave them immediately, even though they're both like, no, go. He's like, I don't want to betray you guys.
Yeah.
So, but here we are.
So he came from he jumped for the Faceless and he jumped for Whitechapel. I don't know who he was recently jumping for, but it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen with that band. I think he might have just came from Whitechapel, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't look into that.
I know he drummed for both bands. I just don't know what his most recent project was, but now that band doesn't have a drummer. Anyways, what'd you think of the EP?
Well, I think Bury Me With My Screams is still a phenomenal song. I loved it when we checked it out, like in our reaction, and I still love it today. That song is sick, you know. And I guess the context of the rest of it is a little bit different now that I know that it was Rudinger on the other 2 tracks. I do think the title track is really good. I think the crazy first solo section is really cool. And I was writing, crazy solo section too. And then I didn't realize there was more than one at the time because I was still listening.
Yeah.
But I think the band has a really good sweet spot they hit sometimes when their melodic hooks hook right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think they nailed that with Struck Dead, the title track. And I thought that was great. But then a song like 6 Walls, I kind of felt like, okay, this band is kind of starting to spin the wheels with their sound a little bit, because this modern era of the band started with The Sin in the Sentence. Masterpiece album. What the Dead Men Say. Masterpiece. In the Court of the Dragon, I think is fantastic, but you can tell that it's kind of like the similar stuff going on. So now with Struck Dead, I kind of feel like, okay, you kind of come to expect this is just what they sound like, but a song like Bury Me With My Screams is what I kind of want to see them kind of like tap into the older stuff with the newer sheen on it.
Okay.
So they did that with that song. So I am curious to see if they will continue that trend on a new record, or if that was just part of the Alex Bent magic. I don't know. But yeah, 6 Walls kind of like, I'm listening to that song and I'm like, there's not much in here that I feel like I haven't heard before from this era of the band. But overall, Struck Dead is still a solid EP. It's only 3 songs, but it gets me excited for the future of this band regardless, because I'm a pretty big fan, I'd say.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Trivium too. Not as big of a fan as you are, for sure. But I mean, you mentioned Sin in the Sentence and What the Dead Men Say. Those are both 2 Toe Tag albums.
They are.
And they're really great. I didn't care too much for Court of the Dragon, but that is what it is. I also didn't care too much for Bury Me With My Screams when we reacted to it. I didn't think that was that great of a song.
Right.
And I re-listened to it again later on to see if maybe I was in a mood or something like that. And it just didn't click with me. So I went into this EP going, I hope the other tracks can really save this. And unfortunately for me, they didn't. Now, one thing that I wrote, and this was before I even looked into anything related to the drummers, I thought the drumming on this was phenomenal all the way through.
Yeah, it was great.
I thought it was fantastic. And then I found out it was actually 2 different drummers on here, so I thought that was really good, really cool, and interesting. Another note that I wrote was that I feel like fans of Ascendancy and The Crusade would appreciate this a lot more. I like those albums. They're good, but I don't love them. I think they're kind of very mid-tier albums, but they're fine. And then I found out when I was doing some reading that this band, they claim that they're channeling Ascendancy energy while writing and recording this album.
That makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense because it sounds like it's from that era.
Not only does, and in my opinion, Bury Me for My Screams sound a lot like the vibe you'd get from Ascendancy.
Yeah.
They just toured that entire album, which was a sick show.
Yeah, so they have that, like, their muscle memory is in that mode right now.
Like, yeah, they've literally been like playing Ascendancy so much, it's going to bleed into their writing right now.
It's exactly true. So that all makes perfect sense. But like I said, Ascendancy is an album that I was just like, I mean, it's the album that got me into this band. Or maybe it was The Crusade. I can't remember. I kind of got them both around the same time.
They're both 1 year apart.
Yeah, they're back to back. They're very close. I don't remember which one I got into first. But either way, that was my introduction to this band. And, I'll forever be grateful for that. But this, I would rather something that sounds more like Sit in the Sentence or What the Dead Man Say. And this just wasn't it for me. So we'll have to see what the next LP sounds like. But for an EP, this one kind of just fell flat for me, unfortunately.
All right. Well, with all that being said, we did decide that we are going to review Shadow Work by Despised Icon for this week. So we're going to listen to that album nonstop over and over and over and over. It's going to beat the shit out of us all week. And we will be back to give you guys our final review and rating for that album. Anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. Remember to like this video if you liked it. Tell us in the comments below, what are you thinking of today's new releases? Is there anything that we did not cover today that you'd like to tell us about? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
And happy Halloween.